Hello and welcome to another exam paper walkthrough. Today I'm continuing with my series on the GCSE Maths June 24 preparation papers, and this is a 3H paper that I've created based on very likely topics. So I've used very likely topics from first class maths. He has produced an excellent revision list and his papers are going to be great as well. Feel free to check them out. If you find this video useful, please do subscribe if you like. I'll also be posting a good chance paper very shortly. If you subscribe, you'll get an automatic update when that paper is released. I would recommend you have downloaded a copy of the paper. Attached to the description of this video, one of the first links is to a Google Drive where you can download a copy of any of the 4 papers that I've produced for paper 3, higher or foundation. I would recommend that you do the paper beforehand or alongside the video to get the most out of it. Just watching the video will help, but it wouldn't be as good as actually doing the paper yourself before or alongside. Feel free to have some music on in the background. I tend to record the videos with an earpod in, so I've got something in the background myself. And other than that, let's start. Okay, so this is the paper. Obviously, there's a QR code to this video. Papers out of 111 marks. I've just taken the very likely topics from first class maths revision list and then compiled the paper. There's a full breakdown of how I've done that at the end of the paper. Feel free to check that out. I'll mention it again briefly when I give grade boundaries for the paper. Okay, so question 1. Dion needs 50 grams of sugar to make 15 biscuits. She also needs 3 times as much flour as sugar, 2 times as much butter as sugar. Dion is going to make 60 biscuits. Work out the amount of flour she needs. Okay, so I've got sugar, flour and butter. So if she needs 50 grams of sugar, she will need 3 times as much flour as sugar, 3 times as much flour as sugar, so she would need, I've missed 50 off there, 150 grams of flour, and 2 times as much butter as sugar. So 2 times as much butter as sugar, so 100 grams of butter. And this is the recipe for 10. She's going to make 60, so work out the amount of flour she needs. So the butter's slightly irrelevant here. Not 6, that's to make 10. So to make 60, she'll need 6 times as much. So we would times by 6. I should have put times by 6 there. So that's going to be 300, 600, 900 grams. It's going to be so I've made a slight mistake here. It's 15, not 10. Silly me. So I'm going to be timesing by 4. So times by 4, not by 6. So that's going to be 600 grams. Dion has to buy all the butter she needs to make 60 biscuits. She buys the butter in 250 gram packs. How many packets of butter does Dion need? So we're still sticking with the 60 biscuits, so we've got a times by 4. So she would need 400 grams of butter. So if I divide that by 250, that's going to give me so 400 divided by 250 going to give me 1 3/5. So how many packets? Well, we can't have 3/5 of a packet, so she'd need 4 packets. 2 packets, sorry. Nearest whole number, 2 packets. Okay, question 2. Write 0.00562 in standard form. So I place a decimal somewhere to make it a number between 1 and 10, so 5.62 times by 10 to the power, and then I've moved it 3 places, so -3. Right, it's an ordinary number, so in effect, I'm moving the place value 3 places backwards. 1, 2, 3. So, okay, so that's just 1,452. Question 3. Anil wants to invest 25,000 for 3 years in a bank. Which bank will give Anil the most interest at the end of the 3 years? So I don't think actually the initial investment is particularly relevant here. Compound interest 2% per year. So the multiplier there is going to be 1.02. So 1.02 to the power 3. So 1.0612 ... for now. Secure bank, if it's actually closer than that, I'll need to adjust. So we've got a multiplier of 4.3% for the first year, so that would be 1.043, and then 0.9% would be 1.009. So we need to compare that to 1.043 times by 1.009 squared. So that gives me a multiplier of 1.043 times by 1.009 squared. That gives me a multiplier of 1.06185 ... So this one, secure bank, is going to have a better return. So secure bank will give most interest. And if you've actually worked out the amount that would be in each of the bank accounts at the end of the 3 years, that's absolutely fine. Just consider that's a slightly easier version, just by considering the multiplier. Question 4. The table shows some information about the dress sizes of 25 women. Find the median dress size. So if we've got 25, the median is going to be, median position would be 25 plus 1 divided by 2, 26 divided by 2, 13th position. So if I kind of do a cumulative frequency, so we've got 2 that are 8 or smaller, we've got 11 that are 10 or smaller, and then we've got 19 that are 12 or smaller. So the 13th value must be a 12. 3 of the 25 women have a shoe size of 7. Zoe says that if you choose at random one of the 25 women, the probability that she has either a shoe size of 7 or a dress size of 14 is 9 over 25, because 3 over 25 plus 2 out of 25 is equal to 9 out of 25. Okay, is Zoe correct? You must give a reason for your answer. No, because some women may be a size 7 and size 14, because we're talking about shoe size and a dress size. So we could have some people, there may be 1, there may be 3, there may be, we don't really know. There may be that we just can't say that there aren't any women that have a shoe size of 7 and a dress size of 14. So those two conditions are not mutually exclusive. Okay, Dart's team is going to play a match on Saturday and a Sunday. If they win on a Saturday, the probability that they win on Sunday is 0.67. If they do not win on Saturday, the probability that they win on Sunday is 0.35. Complete the tree diagram. Okay, so I'll put the information from the question in first of all. That one's already there. If they win on Saturday, the probability of them winning on Sunday, 0.67. If they do not win, the probability of winning is 0.35. So these probabilities need to add up to 1, so that's got to be 0.55. This has got to be 0.33. 0.33, and this has got to be 0.65. Find the probability that the team will win exactly one of the two darts matches. So that's that branch or that branch. So I need to do 0.45 times by 0.33 plus 0.55 times by 0.35. So 0.45 times by 0.33 plus 0.55 times by 0.35. So 0.341. Question 6. The density of apple juice is 1.05 grams per centimetre. The density of fruit syrup is 1.4 grams per centimetre cubed. The density of carbonated water is 0.99 grams per centimetre cubed. 25 centimetre cubed of apple juice mixed with 15 fruit syrup, blah, blah, blah. Work out the density of the drink, giving your answer correct to 2 decimal places: apple juice, syrup, carbonated water. So I'm going to do it like this. We'll call apple juice A, fruit syrup F, carbonated water. I'm just going to call it water, and we're going to have the total. And then I find density questions quite my standard way for setting out a density question is pretty much with a bit of a table. So we've got density, mass, and volume, and we can't just combine the densities because it doesn't work like that. And this kind of method works for any compound measures question. Right, so that's my values for my density. Then we've got our volume, so we've got 25 apple juice, we've got 15 syrup and 280 to make a drink with a volume of 320. It didn't really need to tell us that because we can find the volume by adding those together. What we need to do is work out the mass of each one of these individually and add up the mass. So if density is equal to mass divided by volume, then it holds that mass is equal to density times by volume. So 25 times by 1.05 would give me 105 over 25. We'll leave it like that for now. 1.4 times by 15 would give me 21. I feel like I've messed up on that first part. 1.05 times by 25, I think I divided by. There we go. And then 280 times by 0.99. 1386 over 5. So the total mass is going to be found by adding those three together. So we've got a total mass of 6,489 over 20. So the density is going to be the mass divided by the volume. So the density is going to be equal to that divided by 320. So I'm getting 6,489 over 6,400. So as a decimal, that's going to be 1.01390 ... So to 2 decimal places, that's going to be 1.01. Right, question 7. Jean invests 12,000 in an account paying compound interest for 2 years. In the first year, the initial investment was X%. At the end of the first year, the value was £12,336. In the second year, the interest rate was X over 2. What is the value of Jean's investment at the end of the second year? Okay, I'm going to do this in terms of the multiplier. We're not really asked to find X, so I'm actually going to say that X is a multiplier of, let's call it Y, which will be 1 point something. So I'm going to work out the value of Y first of all. So if 12,000 times by Y is equal to 12,336, then Y is going to be equal to 12,336 divided by 12,000. So it's going to be 1.028. So if I take that initial investment, then 12,336, and times that by half of this, so 1.014, that will give me the amount. So I'm going to go back and edit this. So times by the answer divided by 2. So that calculation's not worked quite right. 36 times by 1.014. So we're looking at £12,508.704. I'm going to say £12,508.70. Okay, question 8. Natalie makes potato cakes in a restaurant. She mixes potato, cheese and onions so that weight of potato, weight of cheese, weight of onions 9 to 2 to 1. Natalie needs to make 600 grams of potato cake. Cheese costs. Work out the cost of cheese needed to make 600 grams of potato cakes. Okay, so potato to cheese to onion is 9 to 2 to 1. And we want a total of 600 grams worth of potato cakes. So this is 12 parts. So each part must be worth 6,000 divided by 12. So 6,000 divided by 12, 500. So each part is worth 500 grams. We're just after cheese. So the amount of cheese that she will need is going to be 1,000 grams or 1 kilogram of cheese. So we're going to assume that she can only buy it in blocks of 175 grams, I think. Cheese costs for, I'm going to make the assumption that she can only buy it in blocks of 125 grams. We could work out the exact price if she can buy it in something other than that. I don't need the G there. Divided by 175. Right, so divide that by 175. So she needs 5 5/7 of a block. So I'm gonna say that she can only buy it in blocks. So 6 times by £2.25. So 6 times by £2.25 would give me £12. No, that's not right. 6 times by 2.25. There we go, that's more like it. 13.5. So 13.5 is the answer that I would go with. Although I've got a feeling the mark scheme will cover this, but we'll check that in a second. I am also going to say that I would accept 5 5/7 times by 2.25. That's assuming that would be assuming that you can buy any weight of cheese rather than in blocks of that. So let's look at that. That was the last answer I brought up. So let's look at the mark scheme then. Right, where are we? Okay, yeah, so they're accepting either answer. Yeah, So they're stating you can have 13.5, which is the one that I've gone for, or they're saying that you can have 12.85 or 12.8. Okay. Right. Single power of 10. Right. So that's going to be the square root of 10 to the power 360 divided by, add the powers, 10 to the power of 240. Right, then we subtract the powers, so that's going to be 10 to the 120, which is going to be 10 to the power 120 to the power of a half, so it would be 10 to the power 60. Liam was asked to express 12 to the power 50 to the power 2 as a power of 12. Liam wrote 12 to the power 50 to the power of 2 is equal to 12 to the 502, which is equal to 12 to the 2,500. Liam's method is wrong. Explain. I'm not quite sure that step to that step. Can't follow the logic. But that's his step. 12 to the power 50 to the power 2 is 12 to the power 100, not 12 to the power 502. I think, thinking about it, I think what they've done is 50, yeah, they've done 50 squared. So that should actually be, it should have, I believe that should have said 12 to the power 50 squared equals 12 to the 2500, which is still true. Okay, question 10. U is equal to 26.2, correct to 3 significant figures. A is 4.3, correct to 2 significant figures. Calculate the upper bound for the value of D. Give your answer correct to 6 significant figures. You must show all your working. Okay, so we want the upper bound, so the maximum that it could be. So I'm going to say D, we'll call it upper and lower. So D upper is going to be equal to U upper squared divided by 2a lower. So if U is equal to 26.2, the upper bound of that is going to be 26.25, and the lower bound of A would be equal to 4.25. So I'm looking at 26.25 squared divided by 2 times by 4.25. Right, so 26.25 squared divided by 2 times by 4.25 gives us 81.066174 7 dot dot dot. So to 6 significant figures, 1 2 3 4 5 6 is to that point there. So I'm going to go 81.0662. The bound for the value of D, the lower bound for the value of D is 78.6003, correct to 6 significant figures. By considering bounds, write down the value of D to a suitable degree of accuracy. You must give a reason for your answer. Well, if I compare my two values, if I rounded them to one significant figure, they would both be 80. If I rounded them to two significant figures, this one would be 78 and this one would be 81. Sorry, this would be 79 and this one would be 81. So they both round correct to 80 as both upper and lower round to this, to one significant figure, but differ to two significant figures. Right, question 11. OAB is the sector of the circle with a radius of 7 centimeters. The area of the sector is 40 centimeters squared. Calculate the perimeter of the sector. Give your answer correct to 3 significant figures. Okay, so the sector area, so the area of the sector is going to be equal to theta divided by 360 times by pi times by 7 squared. So we're told that that's equal to 40. Right, I'm going to pause there for a second. The perimeter of the sector, so the perimeter of the sector is going to be equal to theta over 360 times by 2 pi r, so 2 times pi times 7, plus this length, that will give you the arc length, plus 7, so plus 14. Right, so I'm going to go a little bit, not overly technical, but I'm not going to find theta, I'm going to find theta over 360. So I'm going to say 40 divided by 49 pi is equal to theta over 360. So I'm going to substitute that value in here. So the perimeter is going to be equal to 40 over 49 pi times by 2 pi r. Right, the pi's would cancel. Technically 7 would cancel as well. So that's actually going to be 80 over 7 plus 14. So 80 divided by 7 plus 14 is 25, and actually we want the decimal, 3 significant figures. 0.42851, so that's going to be 25.4 to 3 significant figures. Right, question 12, simplify. So I'm going to factorise the top and the bottom. Whenever you factorise in a fraction like this, I would always recommend you factorise the easier part first. In this case, we've got a difference of 2 squares on the top, because that gives you a hint for the bottom. So this is going to factorise, and we're going to have a 2x and an x, and then we would expect this to either be plus 4 or minus 4. So I'm going to go minus 4. Let's see whether I can make that work. So that would be minus 8, so that would be plus 3. Let's just double check that works. That would give us 2x squared, 8 plus 4 minus 8 plus 4, that would work. So that's going to be it. And then we simplify by taking those 2 terms off. So x plus 4 over 2x plus 3. Right, part B, make v the subject. So I'm going to start by multiplying through by v. So wv is equal to, I'm also going to multiply at the bracket at this time as well, 15t minus 30v. I'm going to take all my v's over to the right, to the left. So I'm going to have wv plus 30v is equal to 15t. Factorise now, so v is equal to w plus 30 is equal to 15t, and then divide both sides by w plus 30. So v is going to be equal to 15t divided by w plus 30. Right, question 13. There are 3 dials on a combination lock. Each dial can be set to one of the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5. So we've got 5 digits. The 3-digit 553 is one way this dial can be set, as shown in the diagram. Work out the number of different 3-digit numbers that can be set for the combination lock. Right, language of this paper a couple of times. Does that mean different to that one or different ones? We'll look at both. Right, so if we've got 5 options, it's going to be 5, choice of 5 for the first one, choice of 5 for the second one, choice of 5 for the third one. So that's going to be 125. That's the total number of different ways that there are, but if it's different to that one, I could see an argument for 1, 2, 4. I'm going to work out the number of different 3-digit numbers that can be set by the combination lock. I'm going to go 125, but I'm not sure whether that classes as one of them and it means different to that one. So I could see an argument for 1, 2, 4. Right. So for this one, for each number, there are now only 4 possibilities, and for each of those 4, there are only 3 possibilities. Because if I pick a 5 the first time, probability of picking, well, there are only 4 others to choose from, and that holds true for all numbers. And then after you've picked 2, to pick another different number, there are only 3. So I think it's going to be 5 times 4 times 3. So I think 60. Right, let's check the answer for part A. It does say 125, but it does say except 124. It doesn't really explain why. It does actually, it says 5 cubed minus 1. So yeah, either one would have been fine. I don't know, overly thinking it possibly, as both were acceptable. Right, question 14. Maisie knows that she needs 3 kilograms of grass feed to make a rectangular garden 5 by 9. Grass seeds are sold in 2 kilogram boxes. Maisie wants to make a rectangular lawn 10 by 14 meters. She has 5 boxes of grass seed. Has Maisie enough grass seeds to cover a lawn at 10 by 14? Okay, so in theory, I want to work out how much 1 kilogram, the area that 1 kilogram of grass seed would cover, which is going to be 5 times by 9. She knows that she needs 3 kilograms, which is going to give us 15 meters squared per kilogram. And each box then is able to cover 30 meters squared. So the area of the lawn is going to be 10 times by 14, and I want to divide that by into 30s. So she needs 5 1/3 boxes. And I've gone wrong here. So 14 divided by 3, I've got 15 in my head and rushed it. It's going to be 4 2/3. So she only needs 5. She's got 5 boxes. She only needs 5 2/3. Yes, she has enough. Okay, Maisie opens a box of grass seeds. She finds that 4 of the boxes contains 2 kilograms of seeds. The other box contains 1 kilogram of seed. Does this affect whether Maisie has enough? Yes, because she'll need 4.5. Yes. She needs more than 4.5 boxes. Right, question 13. Show that can be written in the form where a, b, and c are integers. So again, I'm going to start by factorising both numerator and denominator. Bits that I can definitely do straight away before really thinking about things. That so far. Right, to factorise the top line then, the top line is going to be easier to factorise than the bottom line. So two numbers that multiply together to make -6 and add together to make -1 has got to be -3 and 2. And then I would expect this to either be -3 or 2, which would work fine. I need it to multiply together to make -3, so I'm going to assume it's going to be -3 because 2 doesn't work there then. And then that would make that other bracket 1. Does that work? That would give me 2x squared -6 plus 1 would give me -5. So that would work, and then those two cancel. So that's going to be x plus 2 divided by 2x plus 1. I don't need to write a equals b equals c equals, it just says show that it can be written in that form. Right, question 16, find. So the easiest way, in my opinion, of expressing this in terms of a ratio is if you think about how you simplify ratios. If a over b is equal to 2 over 5, then it holds that the ratio of a to b is going to be 2 to 5. And then b to c, so if I include b to c, similar process, that's going to be 3 to 4. So combining ratios, then the middle term would have to become 15. This one would have to be then times by 3, so it would be 6 to 15. This one would be times by 5, so it would be to 20. Right, question 17. Table says information about the heights in centimetres of a group of Year 11 girls. Draw a box plot for this information. So I'm going to make my box plot look as close to the one below as I can. So the least height is 154. So 154, so we're going, that's going to be that branch there. Median of 165, so that's going to be there. Lower quartile 161. Upper interquartile range is 7. So that's the difference between the lower and the upper quartile, so that means that the upper quartile, or Q3, is going to be equal to 168. And then my maximum, my range is 20, so if the least height is 154, then my max would be equal to 174. So that's my box plot. Okay, compare the distribution of heights of Year 7 girls to the distribution of Year 11 girls. So there's always two different versions, one saying one's bigger than the other or one's smaller than the other. I always go for whichever one it states first. So Year 7 girls have a lower median. Year 7 girls have a lower median. And I like to state them. So for Year 7 girls, it's 155, 6, 7.5, 157.5 versus 165. And then the other one is the measure of spread. So interquartile range is a better measure of spread than the range. So the range for Year 7 girls looks like we've gone from 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. It looks like not a particularly pleasant one. Looks like 10.5. And the interquartile range for so the Year 7 girls have a larger interquartile range. Year 7 girls have a larger interquartile range. And again, I like to put it in brackets, so 10.5 versus 7. Okay, question 18, work out the length of AD. So I'm going to call that X to start with, and then let's start planning. So I'm assuming that we're going to have to use advanced trig twice. Yeah. But that's not too bad actually. It's the sine rule followed by the cosine rule. So if we start with the sine rule, so y over sine 34 is equal to 12.5 over sine 109. So y is going to be equal to 12.5 sine 34 over sine of 109. I'm going to stop there for now because I'm going to get a decimal here that I'm not going to bother writing 3 or 4 times. So for the second one, then x squared is going to be equal to y squared plus 11.4 squared minus 2 times 11.4 times y times cos of the angle 86. Right, so I'm going to go and calculate this and then use it as my answer for this part. So 12.5 sine 34 let's close my bracket, I don't think I need to, but sine 109 gives me the value for that of that, but then I want that squared plus 11.4 squared minus 2bc, so 2 times the answer times 11.4 times cos of the angle, which is 86. So that's the value that I get, and then I'm going to just put answer, and then I'm going to put so x is equal to the square root of that. Oh, 13.14739 ... So to 3 significant figures, that's going to be 13.1. Okay, question 14. Work out the area of the triangle. So we're using advanced trig again. So the area is equal to a half AB, so 11.2 times 4.23 times sine of the angle, sine 118. So 0.5 times by 11.2 times by 4.3 times by sine of 118. 21.26137 ... So I'm looking at 21.3. Interesting that students found that question harder than question 18, but gone on mean difficulty. Question 20, work out the value of. So work out the value of, we need to not just, so we'll summarize it in index form and then work out the value. So when we times, we subtract, so that's 3 to the 5. Sorry, we add, but it's 7 plus minus 2, so it's 7 to the 5 divided by 3 to the 3, which is going to give us 3 squared, which would give us 9. Right, question 21. Show that 6 plus that simplifies to being that. Okay, so I'm going to factorize the top and the bottom, well, the top, and I'm hoping that it would be easier if one of these is minus 1, but it's not, or a 5 would work, so plus 5 and minus 2. Right, so 6 plus. Now, when we divide, it has the effect of multiplying by the reciprocal, so we're going to take the reciprocal, so that's going to be x plus 5 times by x plus minus 1, all divided by x minus 2 times by x plus 5. Then we would cancel that bracket and that bracket out. Now to put this over x minus 2, we would need to times it by x minus 2. Plus x minus 1, and now we can put them all over the same denominator of x minus 2. So that's going to be 6x plus x is 7x, and then minus 12 minus another one would be minus 13, all over x minus 2. Right, question 22. The straight line has this equation. Point A is here. The point A has a coordinate here. Find the equation of a straight line that is perpendicular to L and passes through A. So first of all, the gradient of this line would be equal to 4/3. So what I've done there is I've divided it by 3. Don't need to do the full equation, I'm just after the gradient. So the gradient of L, so I'm going to call that ML. Perpendicular gradient is the negative reciprocal, so minus 3 over 4. And it passes through the point 3 minus 5. So y minus 5 is going to be equal to minus 3 over 4 times by x times by 3 plus c, and we're trying to find the value of c now. Minus 5 is going to be equal to minus 9 over 4 plus c. So 5 plus 9 over 4, so 5 plus 9 over 4, so that should be minus 5 plus that. Gives us minus 11 over 4. So c is equal to minus 11 over 4. So my equation is going to be y is equal to minus 3 over 4 x minus 11 over 4, which would be absolutely fine. I would just kind of my A-level head on me, multiply through by 4, so 4y would be equal to minus 3x minus 11. It's just a slightly better format, or 4y plus 3x is equal to minus 11, but I think I'll put that in brackets. That would be my answer. Okay, question 23. Work out the value of a and the value of n. Okay, right, so to the power of a half, we would multiply it, so it would become a to the power of 1 over n, x to the power of 6 over n. And that's going to be equal to 7x to the power 3. So I'm going to start by, so 6 over n must be equal to 3. That must be equal to that. So that would give me n is equal to 2. and if n is equal to 2, then a to the power of half must be equal to 7, so a must be equal to 49. Right, question 24. Work out an estimate for the mean of the weekly earnings. So we've got a group frequency table. Key to a group frequency table is taking the midpoints to multiply by the frequency. So even though it says estimate, there's a set method for this. So midpoint of that would be 200, 300, 400, 500, and 600. We want to multiply those together and also add them up. So 200 times 1, I don't need to do times by 1, plus 300 times by 11, plus 400 times by 5, plus, just about to type that again, 500 times by 0, we don't need to do, 600 times by 3, gives us, so the mean is going to be equal to 7,300 divided by 20. So divided by 20 is going to give me 365. Nadia says the mean may not be the best average to use to represent this information. Do you agree with Nadia's statement? You must justify your answer. So the reason why you wouldn't agree with it is if there are some outliers that would affect the data, and quite clearly we have got an outlier there because we've got nobody paid between this, and then we've got three people would negatively affect the, well, positively affect the mean. So I would say that, do you agree? Yes. As 3 outliers would inflate the average. Right, question 25. So we've got, here is the shaded ABCD. The shape is made from a triangle and a sector of a circle, center O, radius 6. OCD is a straight line. OCD is a straight line. We've got some dimensions that aren't filled in. A to D is 14. So add that to the diagram. Angle AOD is 140. And angle OAD is 24. Let's put that a bit clearer. 24. Calculate the perimeter of this shape. Right. Okay, that's not too bad. Right. If I kind of break this down, first thing I'm going to work out is the arc length. So the arc length, if that's 140, the angle there must be 360 minus 120. So that's going to be 220. So the arc length is going to be equal to 220 divided by 360 times by pi radius 6 times by pi times by 6. Arc length, not area. 2 times pi times 6. Right, so the arc length, I'm going to come back to, actually, this will tidy up quite nicely. 220 over 360 times by 12 That's 22 over 3 pi. Let me just double check that. Let's type it in a little bit better. 2220 over 360 times by 2 times by 6, so times by 12. Yeah, right, so that's the arc length. Next thing I need to work out is the length OC. So OC over sine of 24 is equal to 14 over sine of 140. So OC is going to be equal to 14 sine 24 over sine of 140. Right, so the total length of the perimeter of the shape, so the perimeter of the shape is going to be 22 over 3 pi plus CD, which is at this length, so 14 sine 24 over sine of 40 minus this length here, minus 6 plus 14. And it looks quite complicated, but we can type it in just like that. So 22, I need to type that in again actually, times by pi plus 14 sine 24 over sine of, that's 140, not 40, over sine of 140. I want to subtract 6 from that and then add 14. So I make it 39.8971 ... So to 3 significant figures, I'm going to go 39.9. Right, question 26. Triangle A is transformed by a combined transformation of a rotation of 180 about the point minus 2, 0, followed by a translation of vector minus 3, 2. 1 point on triangle A is invariant under the combined transformation. Find the coordinates of that point. Right, so let's do the two transformations. So minus 2, 0 is that point there. So 180 that's the first transformation. Then minus 3, 2, minus 3, minus 3, 2. Right, that's just so got ahead of myself there. That's the point of transformation, so that would be the transformation, and then 3 across 2 up, so that point's going to move to there. Nasty question, just spotted it. Actually, the invariant point is that point there. Because following the two transformations, if I called that, let's call that 1 and 2, then that would become 2 and 1. That would be 2 and 1. So these aren't, even though they look like invariant points, they're not going to be invariant points. The invariant point is actually the center of the triangle. So the invariant point there would be minus 3.5, 1. Okay, question 27. So ABCD are 4 points on a circle. SBT is tangent to the circle. Triangle ABD is angle ABD is 20 degrees. The size of BAD to the size of BCD is 3 to 1. So let's I'm going to call it X and 3X for now, just to help myself out. So BAD is 3X, and BCD is X. Okay, find the size of SBA. So we actually want to find this angle here, SBA. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to say is that opposite angles in a cyclic quadrilateral equal 360. So 4x has to be equal to 180. So x has got to be equal to 45 degrees, and that's opposite angles in a cyclic quadrilateral. Equal 180 degrees. My next stage is I'm going to work out this angle here, and I'm going to call it y because they're going to be equal. So I'm going to say then that y is going to be equal to 180 minus 20 plus 135, which is equal to 155, which is equal to 25. And realistically, I've actually got two reasons here. So the first one is that angles in the triangle equal 180 degrees. But then I've also said that y is equal to y because that's called the alternate segment theorem, and y equals y because of alternate segment. So 25. Right, question 28. Ollie drove 56 kilometres from Manchester to Sheffield. He then drove 61 to Manchester to Sheffield. Ollie's average speed, Liverpool to Manchester, was 70. Ollie took 75 minutes Manchester to Sheffield. Work out Ollie's average speed for the total drive, Liverpool to Sheffield. So we'll call it part 1, part 2, part 3. Part 1, part 2, and total. And a bit like I did the density, mass, volume, speed, distance, time. So distance for part 1 is 56. Distance for part 2 is 61. Average speed from Manchester to Liverpool was 70. And 75 minutes. We're working in miles per hour, so 75 minutes is 1.25 of an hour. 60 and 15 minutes is a quarter of an hour. Right, and the bit that I actually want to work out is the total average speed, so that value there. Okay, so I don't really need the speed for that part. I need to work out this bit here. So if speed is equal to distance divided by time, then time is going to be equal to distance divided by speed. So distance divided by speed, so 56 divided by 70 is 0.8, which means total time is going to be 2.05, and total distance is going to be 117. So the average speed then is going to be distance divided by time, so 117 divided by 2.05. So 57.07317 ... so 57.1. Right, Jenny drove Barnsley to York. Jenny's average speed was 80. Average speed, look, 60. Jenny says the average speed from Barnsley to York can be found by working out the mean of 80 and 60. If Jenny is correct, what does this tell you about the two parts of the journey? Two options here. It tells you that either the time taken for the two parts is equal. Time taken for both parts are equal. That's the one I would expect most people to come up with. The other option, which is a bit more complicated, if we just look at this, so if I do 60 over 80, that would simplify down to 30 over 3 over 4. So that means that the distance from Leeds to York is 3/4 Barnsley to Leeds. So I wouldn't recommend this as an answer particularly. So Barnsley to Leeds, no, Leeds to York, sorry, Leeds to York is 3/4 Barnsley to Leeds. Is the other option, but that's not many people would come up with that, so don't worry about that particularly. Okay, question 29 then, functions question. The function f and g are such that f of x is 5x plus 3 and g of x is ax plus b, where a and b are constants. G of 3 is equal to 20 and the inverse of 33 is equal to g of 1. Find the values of a and the values of b. Okay, so I'm going to start by, it doesn't really matter where I start. So we'll start with g of 3. G of 3 would be equal to a times 3, or 3a plus b, and that's equal to 20. Then I'm going to find the inverse function first of all. So if I just say y is equal to 5x plus 3 and rearrange to make x the subject, that would be y minus 3 divided by 5 is equal to x. So f to the minus 1 of x would be equal to x minus 3 over 5. So the f of 33 would be 33 minus 3 divided by 5 would be equal to 6. And then the g of 1. G of 1 is equal to a plus b. So we've got, and I'll write them both out separately, that means that a plus b is equal to 6. And we've also got 3a plus b is equal to 20. If we subtract, call that 1 and that 2. If we do 2 minus 1, we get 2a is equal to 14. So a is equal to 7. And then if we substitute that into either equation, b would be equal to minus 1. Double check with the second equation. So 21 minus 1, yeah. So a is 7, b is 1, minus 1. Okay, and that brings us to the end of this paper. So I'll just talk to you briefly So this was paper 3 key topics produced by First Class Math. This is what I based the paper around. So this is based around their very likely topics. So the 5-star and the 4-star. There is an additional paper that will be coming up live shortly, which is a good chance, which is all their 3-star questions. So don't forget to subscribe if you want to get an update when that video comes out. There's obviously no guarantee that the topics will come up. It's just a forecast based on past series and what was on paper 1 and 2. I took this and then I've produced using Edexcel's enhanced skills map all of these questions. So these are the actual topics that they refer to from the Edexcel enhanced map, and then produce this paper on the back of that. I hope you found that useful. I will quickly show you the skills map itself, just because there is quite an interesting aspect to it. Just pause while I get this sorted. Right, so this is the enhanced skills map. This is the data to compile the paper. So what is useful on here is the total doesn't match. If anyone wonders why the total doesn't match the skills map, it's because a lot of these I was only after a part of the question. So for this one, I've only counted the marks for part A, but I've included part B. So there is a difference in terms of that. The indicative grade boundaries, I'd take them as a bit of a pinch of salt because the max mark was actually much higher than this. But the average mark for students getting grade 9 was 75, for an 8, 78, 68, and so on. You can read them for yourselves. I hope you found that useful. Please feel free to add any questions, comments, or feedback into the thread for this video. Other than that, best of luck with your revision. I hope it's going well. I hope it continues to go well and you get everything that you want and have worked for.